What up, what up, what up, everybody? How you doing? This is your boy Jedi Granville. Welcome back to Jedi Granville Productions. And this is a little bit of my tribute to, classic films of the times, because let's be honest, films these days are just getting what's the best analogy? They're just piss poor, as the saying goes. And recently we had the James Cameron masterpiece of Blue People coming out. I was like, yeah, that's another genre that we got to watch again, but that's beside the point. And this is a segment I call Retro Moments, which is dealing with that, talking about movies that actually had some robustness about them. And hey, times will show that back then they actually meant something. These movies I don't know, but we're here to talk about a film that came out actually 30 years ago this month, believe it or not. And that film is Heat. Yes, Heat is the name of this film. And if anyone's ever watched this film, let's just say that it's one of those, I don't know how you can say it. I mean, the best way to describe this film is it's a cross between certain action films, but such a gusto effect with the Godfather effect, which stars you know Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, who were both in you know those films that I mentioned, the Godfather, well, at least the Godfather Part Two, but they never appeared on screen before. That's the kind of crazy thing. They never appeared on screen acting together before. And this was the first time a film where they are together looking at one another. And what's amazing about this film is that it is incredible how this film is structured. But to kind of get the kind of water bottle about the film and everything, the film is basically a remake of a film that Michael Mann, and I should say this is a Michael Mann film. Michael Mann is basically famous for, or at least co-producing, executive producing the Miami Vice series. And he's done some various other things in the past. He's actually directed Manhunter with William Peterson, and other things. He directed Collateral with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. You know, but this to me is his. I feel is like a swan song. This film here, because as I mentioned before, this is actually, believe it or not, a remake of a film called L.A. Takedown. And the funny thing is, that film was a, let's say it was a TV film, and it was only like maybe an hour or something like that. No, almost 2 hours, something like that. But this movie is nearly a 3 hour long length film. And it is a grand design of what you call filmmaking, storytelling, because the film has such a layered effect of how characters interact with one another, how characters, interpret one another in terms of who they are, what they do. And it's funny how you have a cop who's dedicated to his job, to his craft, where you have a bank robber who's just the same thing. He's that dedicated, very well versed in what he does. And the funny thing is, these two are neck and neck in terms of brilliance. They can interpret each other's, points of view. It's almost like it's a, because someone I actually looked this up, and I was looking, and I haven't noticed that it's almost like a love story, so to speak, between good and evil. In in terms of, and this is the thing about this film, is that the characters are so, they're more three-dimensional than you give them credit for. It is not it is not a one-dimensional kind of story. I mean, you got the crooks who are, they're living a lifestyle. I mean, like Al Pacino's character. In fact, let me break down the cast before I go any further, because I feel like once I get the cast out the way, then you kind of understand what I'm going for. Al Pacino He plays LAPD robbery homicide Lieutenant Vincent Hanna. Robert De Niro is this is the main cast. Robert De Niro plays Neil McCauley. Val Kilmer, rest in peace. Val Kilmer plays Chris Shillis. You know, he's one of the bank robbers. John Voight, you know, you'll see him in and out of this film, but he's playing a man named Nate, who's like the kind of the eyes and ears around what Neil does in terms of making robbers and getting in touch with certain certain scores that he does. Tom Sizemore, another great actor, gone but not forgotten. He plays Michael Sharito. He plays that. Deanna Varnar. Now, this is one of the things about this film. The love interests in here are so different. She plays Justine Hanna, who's married to uh, Al Pacino's character. And you got Amy Bremerman playing Eddie. She's a book salesperson. Ashley Judd, a young Ashley Judd, plays Charlene Sharris, who's of course the wife of Val Kilmer's character. Michael Wilkinson plays Sergeant Bobby Drucker. You know who he is. He played Bubba in Forrest Gump. I just got big lips, sir. You know. Wes Studi, if anyone knows him, he played Geronimo in that film called Geronimo. You know, he plays Detective Sam Kelso. Ted Devine, a very interesting character actor. He's played multiple parts, but if anyone remembers him in Silence of the Lambs, well, you know that he's Buffalo Bill. I'll just say that. I won't tell no more about the character because he does something interesting in that film. Actually, there's a lot of things in that film that goes down. And other people's like Dennis Haysbert, he plays Don Breeden. He seems like a small character, but he believes that he's very important in the film. William Fitcher plays Roger Van Zant. He is such a interesting character. He's a banker who's a not investor. He's an investor, but he's a money launderer. You know, and I won't go too much further. You got a character actor, not character actor, but a rising star, Natalie Portman, probably in her like second or third film performance. You know, she plays a very important character. In fact, most of the people in this film are very strictly important characters. And I should mention that about this film. That's one of the things about this film that I really enjoy because I always compare the film styles or storytelling to if they're really ingrained you with the characters. I kind of favor it to Asian cinema. The reason why I say that is this: Asian cinema, they really incorporate even the most minute character in terms of small as importance. They don't just leave people out in the wind thinking like, okay, we meet this character, that's the end of them, we don't see them no more. No, these characters are very, very, how can we say, important to the plot, you know. And like I say, her character that I mentioned, you know, playing, what's her name again? Make sure I got the name. That was Lauren. She plays, of course, she's a teenager, you know, but what is, you know, her deal as far as what she does. But to get the kind of ball rolling, like I say, this is a Michael Mann film. This was a script that he wrote like back in '79, and it's kind of based on some true events that took place in Chicago. And the things that happened in Chicago, when I mentioned Neil McCauley, it actually was a guy named Neil McCauley that actually lived in real life. So he decided to break this down and create a story where, you know, bank robberies, pretty much are the thing. And well, not much bank robberies, but they rob other kind of things, whether it be because in the film they rob an armored car, they try to rob this metal facility, but that one they fail because of certain things. But anyway, the grand thing about this is that this film is it has a moment in this film that actually it actually it's kind of how art imitates life. If anyone remembers, I mean, I'm pretty sure someone like my generation, Gen Xers, if they remember, there was a shootout that happened in LA back in '88, and it lasted for a good solid maybe 40 minutes. It was a shoot. I mean, they robbed the guys who robbed it. They robbed the place, but there was a massive, massive shootout. And let me just say that the shootout that happened, it's almost like how do you, put this in film? But the thing about it is that's kind of funny how these guys didn't read off no script. They didn't do anything to make something, you know, off learning off something else. They did this themselves, and the kind of thing that happens in LA Takedown is something that happens later on in Heat, which I'll get to. But the LA Takedown film, came out on ABC in '89, and like I say, the situation that happened in LA in '88 that happened a year before. So, what does it all have to do? Well, Michael Mann decided to take what he did with the script that he wrote back in '79, which he was trying to do in LA Takedown as a TV made movie, but it's like, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something, that's more spectacular in terms of storytelling and action and whatnot. So fast forward 6 years later, he's able to create a story which is, I got to say, Heat. Okay, yeah, I was thinking, now that I'm thinking about it, Scarface. That's the movie I was thinking about. I should have thought about. Scarface is a nearly a 3 hour long movie, but like that, it has robust, characters, moments, and everything. Whereas this, it's more entangled, weaving in with the characters, where both the cops, the main character, at least Hannah, Al Pacino's character, Hannah and Macaulay, as much as we know that they're opposite sides of the spectrum, they're like the yin and yang of this movie, because they for themselves are, basically each one has, personal issues, personal things they have to deal with, And the real amazing thing about this is that Hannah, he is so focused on what he does that, as I mentioned, Justine, who he's married to, this is his third marriage, but it is going down slowly like the Titanic. And this should tell you how dedicated and focused this man is. You realize that, yeah, he's taking down the bad guys. He's taking down the ones who are doing the bad. But the upside about that is that, yeah, your personal life sucks. Your personal life is, as he says in the movie, is a disaster zone. It's the disaster basically. So he can't have a personal life because if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. It's like you're causing the so-called relationship narrative to go down because you have no choice but to be this dedicated, to catching the bad guys. I'll give him that. But at the same time, this is why I feel like anyone who's dedicated, and this is me personally, you shouldn't focus on trying to have a relationship. And this is something I've always felt about police officers, law enforcement, or anyone who's in the branch of the military. I know that, and this is just me poking at, uh, you know, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. So this is just me saying this. Um, I feel that if you're involved in a certain branch of certain things that deals with weaponry of any time, you don't need to be involved in any kind of relationship whatsoever, whether you be a woman or man. And the reason why I say that, because the simple fact is that when you involve yourself in that motive, in that notion of knowing that you can have a life outside the walls of what job you do, it's gonna, let's be honest, they see a lot of films where the reason why certain things go down in terms of people's thought process is because they're thinking about the persons or things that they might lose. I mean, great example of this. Look at Star Wars, Anakin Skywalker. Look at his situation when he was afraid to lose, Panami, Pammy, Panama. Another person that's Natalie. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? Natalie Portman's character, in the film, the prequels. He's afraid to lose her, but he loses sight of what's really important in terms of that is what you're supposed to be. You're a Jedi. Learn to, focus on what's due in order to do what's well as far as good wise, everything. What's better? What's the bigger picture? This is why I feel like the reason why he turns to the dark side, because he let his emotions get the best of him, trying to save Panama and trying to not lose sight of what he can save her, but at the same time still be empowered to do. This is what corrupts somebody. And I feel like going back to Heat, Hannah's, you know, Vincent Hannah's character, the reason why he stays so sharp and why the marriages that he's been through already failed is because he can't lose sight of what the job he's doing. He can't lose sight of what is important. Protecting the ones might get caught in the arena of life, and letting yourself get caught up in all those things. So, is that thought process is the reason why he, unlike Neil McCauley's character, why he, you know, he says in the film, he said, "Say, that's supposed to keep me sharp on the edge," because he doesn't allow things to blind him from doing his job. And this is one of the reasons why I feel law enforcement or anything dealing with, as far as I say military, should focus on being that, which is not to be focused on something outside the walls of what you're doing. Because if you do, you might get caught up and you might make a mistake. That's why he doesn't at least make mistakes that much. The only mistake he has made is that he's allowed his job to kind of break down his relationships. And to me, I'm not sad about that, because at least I know that he's a dedicated cop. I mean, some people say, well, you're not having a life. You're not having something to live for. It's like, yeah, but at least he's doing it where others might be able to have a chance to live, you know, and that's what you have to look at. So, with that being said, move to Neil McCauley's character. He is a very skillful professional robber. Whatever kind of score he's trying to get, will do. And the grand thing about him is that he's kind of like McCall. I mean, he's kind of like Vincent. He stays focused on the job at hand because he knows that some heat can come down on him. Hence the word heat. And he tries not to, let himself get caught up in anything. This is one of the reasons why he stays focused by not being in a relationship. Now, I think this is one of the reasons why his whole MO of who he is comes into being or fails because he gets into a relationship with, as I mentioned before, Annie, Amy Brenneman's character, who in the film, if you watch, he's in a bookstore. She notices him, and you can tell that she kind of favors him. But he's not looking. He's not looking at that. He's not trying to focus on that. He's trying to focus on what his position or what his profession is. And when she tries to open up the doors of communication in terms of who he is and what he does, he kind of shoots her down because it's like, why are you so concerned about who I am? And when she explains what basically she's saying, like, I like you, I want to get to know you, I want to really, but I understand, and he realized, like, you know what, hold on, let me not be this kind of person, let me not be like that, and pretty much tells her, I apologize, I'm not, I just don't want you to feel like I am something you should be gunning for, should be looking for, because like I say, relationships, let's be honest, relationships, even nowadays, back then, this is 30 years ago, but even now, they're extremely hard, they're extremely just out there, and this is no exception, he's focused on his position as a thief, but when he allows himself to have a relationship, he feels like maybe it's not such a bad thing in terms of focusing on this, because in the movie where him, Michael, I mean not Michael, Chris, um make sure I get the names right, yeah, Mike, I said Michael, and believe it or not, Danny Trio is in this film too, and he's named Trio, believe it or not. That's what's so funny. um they're all having dinner with their families, and minus Macaulay, he doesn't have any with him at the dinner table. He feel like he sees all these people enjoying themselves with their wives and with their girlfriends, and he's just like, well, after meeting Annie Brenneman's character, he's like, maybe I could have something like this. Maybe it's a possibility for me to have life outside the things that I do. you know So, what does this all boil down to in terms of what this film is all about? It's just showing that this film is literally if you want to say, this film is literally an action picture masking as a more, basically, it's like I say, it's an action picture that's, no, I see the outer layer is an action picture, but the inside of the core, the inside of what it is actually this examining what relationships are in terms of who we are as individuals and how everyone interacts with. Because Michael Cimino, he's got a pretty good, decent marriage. His marriage is pretty good, as well as Chirino's. His marriage is pretty decent. The only ones who's is really unstable is in the robbery group is Chris's. He has a problem with gambling. He gambles all his stuff away. He robs things, but he gambles his shit all the way, and this makes his wife, played by Ashley Judd, so pissed off, because why would you do this if you're not gonna, use the money to do whatever instead of blowing it away? You know, it shows that these people have lives outside the realms of what their professions are. So, hence with uh, Vincent Hanna, we focus on him more often than anything. Although his rest of the people that coincide with him, they they pretty much, they pretty much have their own situations and everything, but you know, he can't focus on those things as much. He has to focus on the job at hand, because there's a moment where all of his people who he leads, they're at dinner, and he actually has to he gets a call about a murder of a young girl, and he leaves his wife knowing, and she kind of knows, like, wow, we're spending time. You could just let this one go, but he can't do that. That's how dedicated he is to what it is. And okay, what's up there, Mr. Kevin Lambert? How you doing, sir? Yes, 30th. Yes, sir. Yes, this is the one. And I just on a side note, I hope you're doing well, brother. I hope you're still recuperating mentally. I mean, I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say that. I should just say, hopefully you're taking the time to recuperate and get back on your feet. And that's because it's kind of like this film. Life intervenes no matter what, but at the same time, you have to take a break and live, which is what, in a way, that Neil Macaulay actually learns to do. Because he gets into a relationship, whereas um, Vincent, he's, let's say, not too good at it. He's not too good at it, and the relationships that he's had before, twice before, didn't work out because the same situation. He is, you know, just not focused on that. Good job. Yes. Hey, much love to you, brother. I mean, don't always just, yeah. But no, the thing about that is this film shows where you and I think that's the thing about this. Really, it's an analogy. If you really look at this film. Yeah, it's a basic action picture. It's a crime drama, but the real story from this film, as I take away from it, it's not about it's not about who does what, who does this, who does all those other things. It's all about how do you function in the world around you in terms of the people you interact with. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, and Ashley Judd's character has an affair with someone, because she's not getting what she needs from Chris. You know, and make sure is it Justine or Lauren? And Lauren, it is Charlene. Charlene. That's the thing right there. Your actions have certain, reactions. They have certain consequences. This is one of the reasons why this film, I feel, is more about relationships than the things that the people do in this film, because everyone is affected by something. Chris is a gambler. It affects his wife. They don't have the love structure that they have and don't have. And this it's funny because they fight off and on, but you think it's about the money, but it's not really about the money that he blows away. It's about him just being there for his wife and their child. You know, that's one thing about this. He has a child, as well as Michael Latrino has a couple of kids. But it's just like that. And that's the thing about how the things affect you in terms of the things you have going on around you, that goes around affecting everything else. You know, it's almost like that George Bailey effect. You think like your life doesn't matter, your life doesn't affect anything. Actually, it does affect a lot of things. Now, if it affects a lot of people. Now, I would say, perfect example, would my life, if I had never been born, affect other people around me? I personally don't feel it would, because I would think like everyone, because I'm thinking like I'm that, you know, anomaly that wouldn't affect nothing. You can't really say that. And the reason I'm saying is because how do you know what you not being here? How would you know that it wouldn't affect something else? The domino effect. So everyone has it basically is a purpose thing. Hannah purposely is to fight the how can I say fight the forces of evil, whereas Macaulay, he's evil, but he's not like evil to the point where he knows he's doing wrong, but he knows that he wants to be out of it until he can really do what he feels that's what he wants to do. So this film is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant film of filmmaking that I just I just feel it's kind of lost. Although you have had individuals like Christopher Nolan. You definitely still have Spielberg. You have trying to think like Guillermo del Toro. You have people like that who still focus on stories and characters that actually have some meaning and depth to what you're watching. I just wish that more films like this were being made today, but I think they are, but I think they're under the radar kind of spectrum, which is sad because let's just be honest, some of the things are like that. Yeah, I can. Oh my, oh my God! It's funny you bring that up, Kevin, because this. Oh my Lord. I know this shouldn't affect me none, because we already got like a third Avatar film out, and then we got like three more, maybe two more. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't care less. Oh yes, that's what I was. Yes, thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, Rock of Edges and Rock. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. There. Yes, these are examples right there of yes. They're one of the few in the business, or actually take the time to tell a story, to focus on really deep down characters. But before I go any further, the second, like a second heat. Why? This is why I feel like Hollywood is slowly dying. It's going down. I mentioned before the Titanic. It's going down slowly. It's becoming the weight of it is sinking fast, and it's not going anywhere because originality is going out the window. I mean, there's still some originality, but no one wants to put no effort into it. And this is why I say the studios. It's like, I mean, they took a chance with Sinners earlier this year, and I'm like, dude, you took a chance with that. Why is it that you're not taking a chance with other things like that? I mean, come on, I don't get that, But the bottom line is that films like this are a dime a dozen, and they were making a ton of these films. In fact, I was thinking about when I was making this getting ready to make the video a while ago. I need to talk about another film that came out around this time, which is Seven. Seven is a brilliant filmmaking technique of films that I feel is something lost on a lot of people. I wish that more people would focus on the story, the characters, that what you watch, but eh, again, we just lost on it. So, but anyway, getting back to the film that it is, that's why I feel that this film is such a basic, very pull the threads back, you see so many other layers on it. Pull the onion back or something. Well, pull the threads, and you may not get what you believe is going to be there. So this film came out in around this time on the 15th of '95, but I wouldn't see this film until like a month later in January of a new year. And I cannot believe when I went to go see it, how it was just well structured. I mean, I was like, wow, this film is really, it's just there. I mean, it's just like wow. and yeah, 12. And I'm about to hit somebody with some untrue. I mean, some truth here. Although somebody might want to hear this, but I have never seen 12 Monkeys, even though I know what it's about. I've never sit down and watched it. So yeah. So yeah. get 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 a hit out on me because I've never seen the film, Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt film. It's yeah, it's and I know it's a good film. I mean, I probably need to one day watch it. I do need to watch it, but no, that's another film right there. 12 Monkeys is another great film that I think is, well, it's because it's original. It's something different. It's something that you could take a chance on. This film, and like, even though this film is kind of a semi remake, because the one that was made came out on TV, this came out in the theater. I know when I watched it with my brother, my late brother, I didn't know what to really expect. I just know that, you know, what the, oh, shut the. Well, brother, look, at least I'm not as bad as some people who haven't seen none of these films at all. That's the thing about that. But um, but no, getting back to that is a semi remake. But the thing about it is it's on big screen, and I feel it's more robust because there's a big canvas, it's a widescreen picture, anamorphic, and it's shot so well, because we're seeing LA in a different light, how it's lit up, and even in the daytime, how it's lit and everything. It's just very well made. I just wish that more films were like this. I mean, and as I say, we do, but they're very rare. And I guess maybe because I'm a product of the time when this film came out and how I love films, because I'm a lover of films. This is one of the reasons why I feel films today have lost their texture, lost their luster for what they are. And this film is a reminder of, like, well, at least you can go back to the times when films were actually done pretty well. And yeah, this film is kind of an example of that. I mean, it's brilliance in its, yeah. As I said, yeah, I mentioned Sinners. I mean, Sinners. It's nothing more than a how can I say, we know it's a vampire film, but it's so more than that. It's recognizing who you as a, you know different demographic, and how back in the days where you were put in a category of whatever, but at the same time knowing that all those categories could blind you from that simple truth is that you don't have to be in that category. You can be free of that. And I think some of the characters in Sinners deal with that, whether you be black, white, mixed, Chinese, white. It's all there. You know. But it's kind of like to say the same with the characters in here. You know, they have their choices. They make their own wheels and whatever. And it's amazing. But kind of get into the story of this film. I figured, because I probably won't be on here too long. Probably be another. I don't know. I mean, it depends, because already up to, which I'm surprised, I'm up to 40 minutes. I'm like, good lord, I didn't realize I was going to be talking that long. But yeah, this film is a well structured take on showing how you do stories, and you do stories well to know enough that you're interested, you're invested. Um, excuse me. The movie starts out with seeing both Macaulay and Hannah, and we see what they're doing when we see that Macaulay, he's seeking into this hospital. He's getting an ambulance, and no one really notices him because he's not making no great moves of what he's doing. Whereas Hannah, he's at home, he's with his third wife, and we see that they're in their marriage, situations. But at the same time, we're introduced to Lauren, Natalie Portman's character, and we realize Lauren is a very troubled teenager. She is someone that is so, it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's hard, but when I say hard, it's kind of hard to kind of describe how teenagers thinking is, unless, like I say, unless teenagers were what they were at the time. And like all teenagers, we think sort of different. But her character, Lauren's character, Natalie Portman's character, she is so fixated that she wants her dad to, love her, be there for her. But as we find out that she's so distraught by her father not being a father, being a deadbeat piece of shit. She feels like he doesn't love her. She feels like he doesn't love her. And eventually, there's a moment in the movie where she tries to commit suicide. And it lets you know that this shows how effective that Hannah is an effective individual in terms of making sure that, you know, he's trying to fight these people, arrest them or whatever. But at the same time, in his whole household, people are taking their own lives, and this little girl she's got everything except her mind is messed up because her father ain't doing shit for her. And that's why you realize life is gonna be like that. You can have all the money, all the riches in the world, but if you don't have that structure where you treat somebody that's worth more than gold to you, it's not gonna be worth a damn, you know. So, like I say, during this time, we realized, okay, Vincent's going to work. Everyone's doing their thing. They're doing things. So the guys that I mentioned before, the robbery crew, they deal with, they're like Neil, it's Michael, it's Chris, it's Trio, and they get this lone wolf named Wangrove, and he is, what's up there, Jake, my friend? How you feeling today, sir? Hope you're doing all right, sir. Yes. So they get this because they need an extra hand. And we find out real quick that Wangrove is a very what's the best word to describe Wangrove? He's an enigma, but he is he's unhinged in a well, I think that's what everybody, brother. I think everybody needs to be better than yesterday. Because they don't know what yesterday was the past, today is the now. Hopefully tomorrow will even be better. So I'll say it like that. But we see that these guys they robbed this armored car and the funny thing is that's the thing about it. That's why they're really well structured and everything. They rob, and here it is where they're robbing. They put this shape charge on the back to blow the doors, and it's beautifully. It's a bit. That's one thing about this. This film has action in here, but the thing about it is, it's not blatantly in your face. It's structurally what I feel is well done in terms of, you know, filmmaking. And here's the thing about this film, and I've actually said this because this is what's so weird. I mentioned William Fincher in the film. He's a bank. He's a bank, not owner, but bank investor, and he's a launderer of money. If you watch him in The Dark Knight, the same beginning of the film is kind of like homaging what Heat does in the beginning when this armored car robbery is. And the weird thing about that is when I saw The Dark Knight and I saw William Finch's character in the bank, I immediately thought this almost feels like Heat to some degree. Interesting enough, that's what Christopher Nolan got William Fincher for, that particular role, because he saw him in Heat. And when you see it, it's like anyone who saw Heat, who's a fan of it, I mean, it's like That's the reason why this feels like Heat, because it's so real structured, it's so well timed, it's so well everything put together. It's like, huh. And we see the Joker's, you know, craftiness and intelligence and how he pulls off a score. That's how he does, and that's why he's like, whoa, it's like, and that's the reason why people like Christopher Nolan are good at their jobs, because they're taking characters, put a well-oiled machine structured story in there, and getting him for that film was brilliant, But getting back to the story, we realize that Wangro is off loose cannon. He shoots one of the guards that's on the truck for no reason, because it's like they were going to let them guys live, but he shoots one of them. Then the guys shoot in self-defense, and then they kill one of the guards because why not? Because they're not going to make a difference. They're already, up for murder one. So beat around. Vincent's crew, come up. They see what's going on, and he mirrors exactly what he just said, what they just did. Let me see here. Yes, that's very true, brother. That is very true. Filmmaking is one thing, but storytelling has a very deep, more meaningful announcement to it, and that's why I feel like this is a very good story, structured storytelling, because we see how in the film, after the robbery is done, nightfall comes, and Vincent shows up with his people, and he's like, and when I'm watching this, he automatically says, "This is what the reason why this happens." And when he says, when he realizes that they shot the other guard just because, he's like, "What difference does it make? Why leave a living witness? Because they don't know, they can't see their faces, they don't know who they look like. So I just take them out of their misery." That's why I realized, this is where you realize both Macaulay and Hannah have a kind of a special bond, in terms of who they are, what they do, and how they're really manifest themselves and doing the job that they're doing. And this is why I say it's such an elaborate sense of storytelling with them. I mean, there's a moment here where in the movie where they find out who Macaulay's crew is, and when and it's a brilliant moment. I wish I had, but there's a brilliant moment where they do another robbery on this metal facility. They're about to break in, and while Macaulay's outside, Vincent's crew and his like a whole squad are ready to take him down. They're outside in these vans, and they're just waiting until they come out with stolen goods. This is a moment where I love this moment where some moron can't stand still for 2 fucking seconds, makes a sound in the truck, and Vincent, looks quickly. He sees him and he looks back, and it's a moment where Neil looks, and this is the moment. This is what I love about filmmaking, and this is what the story, or at least storytelling. Better say storytelling. We see Vincent looks right at Macaulay, while Macaulay's is like in a sense looking at him, and we're seeing this kind of fourth kind of look. They're looking at both at the camera, but it's like they're both looking at one another. It's like, and we see, and Vincent's kind of like, "Oh, did he hear that?" And Macaulay's kind of like, if I heard a sound, that means I need a jet. My people need a jet. It is such a visual motif there, showing how we know that these two are good at their positions. They are not somebody who is just just gonna say, oh yeah, I'm gonna do a diamond nine and dime kind of thing, and bank robbing. No, if I hear something and I can tell something's off, out of there. And that's the reason why Vincent lets him go, because you get them for what? They broke in, but it didn't take anything. The crime is you break and entering, sure enough, but you got to take something. If you don't take something, it's like, what difference does it make? It's been like 4 or 5 months in jail. It's like, then they get out. He knows this. That's why Vincent is a very, very good character. It's like, dude, you can't just do this and feel like if we don't take them, if we take them, it's not going to make a difference. They're going to get out before you know it. So, in the midst of this is where they find out who they are. Well, they already knew who they are, but they get the drop on them. In terms, when I say get the drop, they get them seeing what the next score they're going to do. But this is where where is this? This is oh yeah. He's doing a little bit better. He's doing a little bit better, Jake. I feel he, like everybody else, hopefully he is doing better. Like I say, I know me. I'm off for the week, so well, 2 weeks actually from work, so I'm definitely going to be fine. But no, they feel like the cops. I'm talking about. They think they got the drop on Neil and his crew because they video and videotape and whatever what the score they're going to do. But shows how brilliant these guys are, or at least how Neil is. He sees that if this heat is on them, there's something I need to do. See who these people are. So when they come to check, the cops do check where they was at before. Neil gets the drop on them by photographing Vincent. And I'm just like, I love this moment. It's like this is why I say this is what storytelling is. It's like you think right off the bat, but then when I was watching this, it's kind of like, okay, why would they pick a area that's so not low key, but just something like it's not worth the time? Vincent automatically knows. It's like, is this crew good? And he says, you know what they're looking at? They're looking at us, the LAPD, the police department. And that's when he knew we just got made. It's like, dude, come on now. How? Look, when he figures it out, and individuals don't figure it out right away. You feel like y'all should have figured that out, but it's like, nope, we didn't figure it out. We didn't know. We didn't figure this out because we didn't think that was so simple. It's like, no, some of the times the simplest things are the most smartest things to do. Oh, excuse me for here. So it is such an amazing thing that he figures out, okay, so Macaulay's onto him, and he figures like, well, what's he going to do now? What's his next plan? Well, Nate, which is Vincent Vaught's character, he gives him this bank layout they're going to do, and he mentions to him that he gives him the information about Hannah. The grand thing about it is he pretty much has insiders. That's one thing about. That's why I say ears and eyes on the world around him. That's Nate's character. He has people that he knows or talks to in terms of how to get information. Because he's got information with the DMV, this and that. And that's how he's able to get passports and whatever. He's just very good at it. Okay. He tells him that this guy that he's knows tells him that Vincent tells Neil. Vincent admires Neil. He admires what he's able to do. He admires how he's able to pull off the scores he does. He admires him for being able to do the things that he does. And you think like yourself, like, here's a crook admiring the no, I was just say here's a cop admiring the crook. It's kind of weird knowing that there's that stabilization of that kind of outcome. You kind of think to yourself like, huh, it's not just a simple, I gotta take this guy down because he's bad. You want to get to know this person, and this what leads to this amazing moment that I showed earlier, which is them having coffee, just coffee. This moment here, and to me, this is a moment not just with Mr. Pacino and De Niro actors, who are so robust. They're well known in Raging Bull, other various films. They have, like I say, Scarface, I mentioned before. This is a moment where they have this amazing dialogue scene. This is an interesting thing is this is the same time when this film came out. This is the same time when a year before Pulp Fiction had came out. Quentin Tarantino's film, and you know how the dialogue in that movie just crackles. It's just that good. This particular moment here where they're at this coffee shop, and this restaurant really, and they're just having this dialogue back and forth, just spitballing stuff between one another, and the way they're talking, you think they were friends or want to get to know others, want to be close friends, even though one is on the wrong side of the law while the other one is trying to enforce the law. And it's such a brilliant mix of technique in terms of them talking about their, relationships, talking about what they want to do in life. And it's to me, it shows right there that neither one wants to be in the position that they want to be, but they have to because that's the only way they're seem like they're alive. And this is why I say the movie shows that not everything is green, not everything is what it is being a cop, or at the same time being a crook. It's kind of blind. It's kind of blinding. Everything is gray. It's not black and white as we think it is. And this moment here is such a brilliant moment. I love how it's done. So push forward to where after he has coffee with him, they lose sight of the crew. They lose sight. They're they're they lost them, and because they don't know what score they're going to do. So hit back to a person named Wayne Grove that I mentioned before, who pretty much screwed up their thing with the armored car. He comes and finds Van Zandt, which is William Finch's character, and he feels like I can tell you what we can get with Raingrove, with Macaulay, and tell you what score he's going to do next. Because Van Zandt has been living in his office all the time. Because Macaulay told him, like, if I ever find you, I'm going to shoot you dead in the street. Basically, is what he said. So. Things about to hit hard in this scene, and it's coming up. The bank robbery scene. The bank robbery scene is one of those scenes where you never forget the percussion score in that is it's very simple, but it's very effective. Because they're doing the business, and this is and I should say where the Dark Knight was saying, I said the beginning of this film is representative of the Dark Knight. This scene is actually more representation of the beginning of the Dark Knight more, and I feel like that's what it was about. So, anyway, they do the robbery. They come out and they find out through Wayne Grove, through a CI informant played by Henry Rollins. They get informed that they're hitting the bank right now. That's the only reason why, because they shut off the alarm systems, video things, so they won't know they're being robbed. Anyway, once that's done, they're coming out. They done, like I say, they rob the place. They rubbing out because it's only $12 million in loose bills. So they're coming out. They're about to get away, and before they know it, they get spotted, and Chris starts unloading on anybody that's a cop, and it's like, yes, they get, shot up and everything. And as I mentioned before, another character, which was, make sure I got his name here, which is Don Breeden. He actually was this real man, which was which was Trio's, but it found out that Trio was the one that was who informed Waingro because they had his woman. In a deleted scene, you actually see this moment here. But that shows how timing. This is how storytelling is best done. It's like you got to make sure it's smooth and to the point of where you want to go. Well, anyway, he is the one that's driving them, and he was just recently a parolee. He gets out of jail, and this is one reason why I say again how certain characters that seem, secondary or not that important. He's very important. He gets out of jail. He's trying to rectify. He's trying to reconstitute himself, be a better person. But the person that he's working with is a total dickhead because he feel like if a crook once, you're always going to be a crook forever. So he never really gets his just due. So he feel like, well, if I can't do this on an honest living and being treated fairly, you know what? Might as well die for what I was always meant to do. So he does the driving, but unfortunately, during the shootout, he gets taken out. He gets dead, and that's the end of him. That just shows right there. He seems like he's unimportant, but he's very important. That's how you do stories. So, moving on through the shootout, there's a massive shootout going on here, and I should tell you that when I saw this in the theater, it was kind of weird how when you hear the gunfire in the movie, it sounded like actual gunfire. If you listen to actual gunfire in the movie, if you actually no, let me rephrase that. Real gunfire does not sound like in the movies. The gunfire you hear in movies is actually been altered to sound differently in films. And if Kevin, this is something part of doing something that deals with sound design or sound, what I was mentioning, because certain sounds do not translate into film. What you hear in film is totally different than what real life is. Well, the shootout, the sound that you hear in the films when they're shooting at the cops, shooting back and forth through the reverberation in the canyons of the city, the concrete, the metal, oh yeah, look, trust me, this is my thing, Jake. This is why I love film, because I know these little techniques and everything. The sound of the percussion of the gunfire and everything, that's actual sound of it on production. What they filmed in sound on the gunfire in the movie, that's what you're hearing in real. That's what's in real life. That's the real sound of the gunfire that's being played in the movie. That's what you actually hear. You'll hear process sound effects during that. That's actual sound effects of the guns going off, because the director felt like you're not catching the essence of the horror of this, because when you're hearing gunfire in movies, I mean, you can hear it in Die Hard, RoboCop, you can hear it in like Terminator 2 or anything like. It's all fabricated, but real gunfire sounds totally different than what it does in real life and in the movies. So what you hear in in that moment during the gunfire, yeah, exactly. This is I can say, dude, it's good to know. It's good to know that you have someone who knows little things like this. It's not big, but I mean, it's a little something that, I mean, anyone who knows this stuff like me, because I'm just interested in that stuff. That's all it is. It's be honest with you, it's no great thing, but I feel like that's just how it is. But Yeah, the process sounds that you hear of gunfire in movies are not what you hear in real life. So what you hear in the movie during that gunfire during the bank robbery, that's actual gunfire sound effects. That's the actual sound that they're making because that's what the director wanted. He wanted to capture that raw, intense motion that you hear. So during this time when Macaulay, you know, uh, Chris and Michael, while they're getting away from the cops and everything, we uh, we see something that happens here that is that when I saw it, I realized like that's something kind of unique how an actor did this. Val Kilmer was able to cycle a empty chamber real here. He's able to cycle his empty gun and then reload it back and read it. And see, that is something that's the code to most military, or at least Marines anyway. Is like slow is smooth, smooth is fast, or some kind of way how it is. And when you see him reload his gun just like that, it's like, dude, I have never seen nobody in a movie before or after load you know, unload or reload a gun that quickly. And funny thing is, both him, Val Kilmer, um, Tom Sophomore, and Vince. I mean, not Vince. Robert De Niro's character. They all did basic training on a gun range, shooting like professionals to learn how to shoot like that, use automatic weapons and everything. And that's the thing right there. When you watch this, it's like that's the reason why they're so good at it because they was able to shoot the guns like they're had weapons training. They've had military training. But like I say, you go back to like I say to him. When he stops, you know, takes out a clip, and then re refires. I mean, puts it back in, and then clips it and fires it off. That I like to say, actors are not known to do it, but that's only because he had training. Val Kilmer had training. So Michael Mann won realism. He got it because he took these people on a range to learn how to shoot. And in the midst of that, what did they get? Well, believe it or not, a little anecdote, this moment was shown to certain military faculties, like the basically Marines or the Army or whatever, who use guns. And they said, this is how you cycle a rifle when, you need a clip and change it out when you run out of ammo. That's how you do this, quickly, efficiently, and that's, and it's crazy how that's it. And I'm there might have been a joke to some, because without him, but I believe that could be true because you can't cycle a rifle like that without some training. And he did it like this, and he's an actor, But like I say, rest in peace, Val Kilmer. So during this time, they're getting away, but Chris's character, Val Kilmer's character, Chris, gets shot in the shoulder. He's injured. He's, Neil gets him out of there. Whereas Michael, he's trying to get away, but he gets separated from them. And Vincent's able to take him out. He's able to get one in the crew. So, okay, shit's hit the fan. Everything's going down. So, okay, moving on through everything. Whereas during this time, we realized that, Vincent has got in touch with the guy who ratted him out to the cops. He's asking, well, how come you did this? He tells him that Rango was a part of the reason. And during this time, Neil is taking out people who have fucked him royally, or at least who betrayed him. And he goes find Trio's character, but it turns out he was blackmailed because they killed his woman for telling him information about the bank. and he's been beaten down by Wayne Grove. And there's a deleted scene where he was beaten by with a bat, but they deleted it out. So he's Neil Fine.
Hello, yes, I'd like to place an order, please, for
What the?
delivery.
Hold up. What the hell?
Can I get a large pizza?
What the hell? Sorry, people. What the hell? My phone just automatically. It's like it took a life of itself. You piece of garbage. Um, where was I? Yeah, Neil. Trio tells him, don't leave me like this because he's bad. He's gonna die anyway. So it's like, don't leave me like this. So he shoots him, puts him out of his misery. So during this time, um, Charlene calls up Hank Azara's character, who she was having an affair with. He says, "Yeah, well, this is why we go live, brother. We never know what random things are going to happen, And I'm just kind of like, it started speaking. It's like, what the freaky freak? No, 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 no. That's no. What the hell? It's like, that was weird. Oh my God, the machines are taking over. AI is taking over, guys. Watch out. Anyway, no, let's not go there. Anyway, I'm losing my mind. No, get back to the story. It's we realized, like I say, Charlene gets Hank Azara's character, who is played by Hank Azara's character is what's his name in the film? Alan. Well, his name is Alan. I can't say his random. I can't say his last name. I'm not good with last names. Anyway, they says you want to take me out of here. You want to go with me. You want to take me somewhere. Come and get me now. Well, as it turns out, Vincent had gone to see Alan and pretty much set him up to say, if we get something from you, you're going to lead this to where we can get him and his crew. So he's on a plane because this takes place in he lives in Las Vegas. He flies over to Los Angeles to sleep with her and everything. So anyway, they got her, they got him, and they go to the safe house where he takes her, and he's pretty much telling us, like, you want out, this is out. You want to do this, you got to do this. So as I say, you think small characters, not even meaning anything. That's not true. His character is just important. So he, gets set up with Drucker, which is Michael Wilson's character, and he tells her, if you want to do the right thing, you're gonna have to sell out Chris, because Chris during this time he's getting worked on, and as far as getting the bullet out of his shoulder, and everything, but he's obsessed with her. Even though she would leave him in a heartbeat, somewhere down the line she still has feelings for him. This just shows how love is a crazy thing. You just don't understand it. So during this time, he's all fixed up. He's already got his papers, driver's license, and all that stuff. He goes looking for her. He finds out where she's at, and Drucker tells her, you're gonna have to sell him out. You're gonna have to do that. You're gonna have to do that. Give me a second here. Some people. 1 second. 1 second. Oh, don't need you to see me when I'm doing. But anyway, he tells her, you're gonna have to sell out Chris in order to not to victimize your son, because if you go to jail, he gets pretty much the baby. Dominic pretty much lands up in these gladiator prisons, and he comes fucked for life, pretty much. So all she has to do is pretty much identify Chris, and all is well. This is another moment here where it shows how, this amazing acting, storytelling, and how visually some things are. She goes to the window, on the balcony. She sees him, and without hesitation, she looks at him. She's feeling some kind of way. Without hesitation, she sees him and she does this with a hand gesture, just like that. You feel to yourself like, wow. You mean after all what she said about him, how she like say you're not the father to my son, you're not the like she still couldn't bring herself to betray him. I'm just like, wow. I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, look, personally, how a person does, we know and everything, but it shows right there that a person deep down they still have something for that person. And when you see this happen, when he sees that gesture, when he sees this, it's like because he sees it when she sees it, he's like, I'm happy, and he's smiling, but he gets it quickly. It's like he turns off that smile. And it's like, I get what you're saying, and he, pretty much leaves. And the cops, they stop the car, check him out and everything, and everything's viable. Everything's, you legit, because of Nate, as I mentioned before, Nate has these connections where he gets the good stuff, whatever, for people who are crooks and everything. This is a moment where this is a moment where we watch this scene. We see her tell him that that's not him. She goes to sit down, and when we find out that he walks, gets away and everything. We see two sides of this where we see Charlene. She sits there and she's like, I might not ever see him again because he has to go on the run. And then we go to the scene where he's driving off and he's realized like I have everything I want, but I don't have her. And that's the thing you realize right there. It's like he did all this in a way for her, but at the same time, he didn't realize how much he would lose. You can have all the riches in the world. I mentioned this before. This is with Natalie Portman's character, Lauren. You can have all the riches in the world, but if you don't have the structure of the person to, be there for you, that's what's going to happen. You can lose it all. You can lose what's actually viable in your life and what's important. And I think that's the reason why when you see him driving away, will he try to attempt to get in touch with her again? Probably not. Maybe in a way he would, but he would get. He knows that if he does, both him, not so much him, go to jail, but he knows she would go to jail, and his son would be forever, you know, forever. So that is just showing how a piece of it. But the main thing about this is Vincent and Neil, and we're coming to the tail end of this film where they pretty much are about to go neck and neck. We thought we did it with the bank robber, but here's where they really neck and neck. I mentioned before where Vincent, he's actually, since he's the job that he does is neglecting his relationship. You know, Justine, has been having an affair. So he moves out, and he's like, you know what, get this. I realize this is not working. So he goes to a hotel, and in the hotel, he knows there's water on the floor, in the carpeting, and he sees that um, Lauren is in the tub, but apparently she's cut her wrist and the thigh and everything, and she's pretty much trying to commit suicide. So he takes her to the hospital and everything. He's like, I'm not losing you. I might lose other people today, but I'm not losing you because you, like I say, you shouldn't have to be a part of this madness that I have to deal with. So he takes her to the hospital, meets up with Justine, and during this time, he gets a beeper. This is this is back when beepers were was something of a thing for us. Before this technology. You know, saying that there's something going on at the hotel that Wayne Grove because because we feel like with people that Neil was taking out, Wango was definitely on the top of the list. He's at this hotel. He's at this airport hotel under a different name. So anyway, he gets a call, but he's not gonna go because he feel like, okay, I'm just gonna stay. I'm just gonna be here. And this is the moment where Justine asked him, "Do you think there's a chance for us and everything? Do you think there's a chance for us to be together?" And he even says to her, "I'm only going after what I'm seeking." And he pretty much bluntly says to her, "It's like, I'm not what you want, Justine." He even knows that he's not doing her right. He knows he's not giving her what she deserves, a husband, you know, to a wife. And, he realizes that that's the only way he can do his job is to be focused, and having a relationship is not one of those. In a way, it's kind of a sad ending for him that this marriage ends on a third for him. And I mean, it's just how it is. That's real. That shows that's a reflection of real life. People go through these ordeals in relationships, and you can't hide from it because you can't be that way. You can't live that way if you're not focused. You can't do that. So he goes to where they say what the commotion is over the airport. Neil kills Wayne Grove because that's the main person he really wanted to kill. And during this time, he brought Amy. Make sure her name is here. It is um, Edie's brought her with her to do this to go kill him. But when he sees Hannah, he say, "I can't. I'm not gonna get caught," and he just leaves her. Because he even says in the movie, he's like he was told a thing once before. Do not if you see the heat rooming around the corner, do not hesitate. Drop everything what you're doing. If you don't want, if you no, if you the way he says, if you see the heat coming around the corner in 30 seconds flat, leave now. That means any relationships, anything that you have, beat it because they're going to take you. So he lives by that coda, and he leaves her. So it's another example of something sad. you know so they're at the airport, and Hannah gives chase to Neil, try to catch him. And the movie comes to a dramatic ending where they're on the this is during the nighttime too, where planes are coming in and out of LAX, and they have these lights that come on to direct the planes because it's dark and everything. And where they're at, they light up everything like Las Vegas. They just light it up. You know, so in a way, this is a good thing for Neil because he can get the drop on Vincent. Taking out he won't see the blinding light coming to get him. He can get him off kilter like that. And Vincent, he doesn't see him at all. Until it works both ways. The light can't see him, but his shadow is still there, and that's the reason Vincent's able to get the drop on him. He sees his shadow as he's coming around, gets the drop on him, bang bang, takes him out. And this is a moment where you realize that Vincent, even though he's taken down his so-called flip coin of adversary, he didn't really want to do it because he and himself admired him, like you mentioned. And Macaulay tells him, like, "I'm not going back to jail." And in that moment, they shake hands, hold hands there. And it's almost a picturesque kind of moment where it's like a yin and yang kind of moment. Like, this is the part of me, this is the part of you. And the movie ends like that. You know, it ends like that. And it's like I say, it's amazing how both lose a relationship, but at the same time, they kind of gain knowing that this is who they are, you know, even though one dies in the end. And it's an amazing film in the end. You know, that's just, and if I really have to rate this film, you know, it's a 10 out of 10. It just is. It's just a beautifully well made, crafted film that I just wish that 30 years down the line there'd be more films like this nowadays with dumbasses producing bullshit and making a lot of blue men people movies all the time. I'm just like, come on, man, really? But no, this movie is a well crafted movie of storytelling, acting of characters, and how above where not everything has to be action packed to be liked. You have to have a strong narrative in the mix of it to really get you going, you know. And just to kind of show a little behind the scenes here, this is just a middle here during the bank heist where, you know, Chris gets shot and the camera goes down. It's a moment in the movie where they go pulling down and it shows Neil picking him up. You know, it's a brilliant moment here of filmmaking, and another one before it during the coffee scene where Michael Mann directs both De Niro and Pacino at the coffee moment. You know, where they have their little dialogue scene. You know, it's showing that the craftsmanship of the writer director, which was this was written both by both wrote and directed by Michael Mann, how they are able to tell the story and formulate it where it's like it's interesting. And remember, this movie is nearly 3 hours long. This movie is like coming at 2 hours 50 minutes long, you know. And it's just like I say again, it's just a very brilliant type of filmmaking. And the funny thing is, this film never got. I think they got nominated for some MTV movie awards, but I don't think it got any. It never got nominated for any Oscars. Which I can tell you now that I don't think it's a waste of time getting nominated because it didn't need to be nominated. Its own reward is the people who cherish and respect and enjoy this film. That's his best reward. Getting an Oscar is okay, but I think that's just throwing a bone kind of thing. And I realize that's why I've lost respect for the Academy Awards because they're not what they used to be in my mind. They're totally different. They're not what they are now, and that's one of the reasons why I say, you know, yes, politically, they have become a total shell of what they used to be, which is honoring the ones that are best, not because someone says this is what they should be, you know. But, yeah. But again, this film is a 10 out of 10, and I hope that anyone who chooses to watch it get a big get a big bowl of popcorn, you know, get a drink, sit it in. If you had the experience to see like me in the theater back in 95, 96, early 96, you would got the experience of what it was like to see this film. It was brilliant. It was real brilliant, you know. But hey, that's it for Heat. And knowing that Heat was something that I feel needed to be talked about because I don't think too many people talk about films like this because, well, they only talk about blue people. But that's here another say. You know, that's how things go. But with that being said, I got things coming up this week. I will be attending a broadcast with or a stream with, well, not stream, but a podcast with Mr. DJ Anumis, where we're going to be talking about a film that I did not really know about, but when I saw it recently, I realized like, wow, how is it that I never heard of this? No, maybe not heard of it. But how come I never seen it until now? It's a film that's over 35 years old now, and it's called The King of New York, which stars Christopher Walken, um, Lawrence Fishburne and a which I did not know was in here, Wesley Snipes. I was like, whoa, he's in this, before he became Blade or Passenger 57. Kind of weird, but that shows he had a gift. We'll be discussing that tomorrow, and hopefully you join to see that, because that's gonna be interesting. Because after watching it, I definitely got to talk about it. I got to talk about it. Later this week, oh yes, Tuesday, I will be getting together with a friend of mine, Mr. Daniel Cabrera, aka Sci-Fi Century, and we're going to be discussing a film that which I knew about but didn't really watch, was called Mid '90s. It's a picture that was written and directed by Jonah Hill, which talks about being a teenager during the '90s. And since he was a teenager during that time, I was like, okay, I'll give it a watch and we'll discuss it. Then later that week, believe it or not, after Christmas, day after Christmas, I will be doing my 30 top favorite superhero or comic book films of all time, because there's a lot of them out there, but then again, some of them have really affected me more than others, and I feel like this one is the one that affects me. These ones that I'll mention will affect me more than anything. So that will be that this Friday, and coming next week after that, which is next following week, the day after New Year's Day, I'm going to be talking about. And oh, thank you, brother. I look. I do my best, brother. You like I say, just like you and anyone else, Nubis and them, y'all do the same thing, man. I mean, I just try to give you what you need and not always give you what you want. Give you what's necessary. That's what I try to do. But come that Thursday, is it Thursday? No, that Friday on the 2nd, which is a new year, new day. I'll be talking about Super 8, which was a 2011 sci-fi film directed by J.J. Abrams, where I'm not going to be discussing the film in so much detail, but it's because it's going to be more of a commentary in terms of a reflection of my life, because this was a reflection of the time when my mom had passed away, and you'll find out why some similarities between that film and the juxtaposition of my life dealing with that, and you'll find out, but I won't tell you right now. So, but yes, thank you everybody, Kevin, Jake, whoever was on here, discuss this, watch this. I'm thank you for the time and everything. Thank y'all for being here, and I'll say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year coming up. But as I always close out with these videos, y'all take care. Y'all do be patient, and always, and yes, I will take care, brother. Keep the film, keep the film legacy alive, always. All right, y'all take care now.